Before we begin, two messages. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Here's a riddle. How do you build native cross-platform mobile applications quickly without having to rewrite code and hire consultants at a huge cost? Titanium from Appcelerator. Called the easy button for mobile application development, it allows you to focus more on what's important, getting product out the door. Join the more than 1.5 million active developers who have created over 13,000 apps at www.appcelerator.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Untether.tv. My name is Rob Woodbridge. I'm your host on this tour of phenomenal mobile companies. And obviously, this is where you come to hear casual conversations with mobile rock stars. And I have another one here from San Francisco, California. I want to paint the picture for you about how this operates. Is that if you've ever been a passive observer of television, which means you're sitting on your couch, or any kind of media, but let's focus on TV for a second. You're sitting on your couch and you're watching TV and you want to interact. You want to contribute. You want to voice your opinion, good or bad. You want to scream at the television or stop screaming at the television set and actually start contributing to a collective voice. Well, that's where these guys come in, and that's where Loyalize, their sweet spot is. And with me is the co-founder and the CEO, Todd Greene. Todd, did I get any of that right?
You got it all right, Rob. Thanks a lot for...
One out of 10 I get right, and then the rest of the time, the CEO was looking at me like, no, that's not my company. So I'm really happy that I did this right. Why don't you embellish that a little bit? Give me a little bit of deeper description of what it is that Loyalize does.
Sure. I mean, it's straightforward. We are an audience participation company. So our vision is to provide the best ways for audiences to participate around whatever it is that they're watching or doing, right? So obviously, when there's a large audience, we always think of television because we all sit around and watch TV a lot, and there's these sort of synchronized experiences around television. But it doesn't have to be television, like you mentioned, right? There are lots of audiences at concerts, at events, at promotions, at speeches, at political debates, all of the above. And what we do is provide experiences, usually, on these devices, right? Your mobile phones, your tablets, that allow people to participate with each other in real time around the event or the TV show that they're currently watching.
I mean, this is the holy grail mecca for television producers, content providers, station owners, network owners, I think is what they're called, really. So, I mean, what was it? There's obviously a gap, and it's so small, right? From me to my television set, which is usually maybe 3 or 4 feet. With my kids, it's a little bit closer. But that gap is so deep and vast between me as a passive watcher and me as an active watcher, which really you haven't had an opportunity to do before something like American Idol or calling in and donating to a charity of your choice. Obviously, this has been a problem that's been plaguing this industry forever, hasn't it? Since the day the first TV was landed in the living room.
Well, I think it's an opportunity, right? I mean, there's no problem with television in the sense that over the last 50 years, television has, the number of hours per day we've been watching has been growing and growing and growing and growing. What things changed all of a sudden is, I mean, by the way, you're right, the vision's been there for a while. People have always said, wow, wouldn't it be great if, the audience could somehow participate. But what happened is, once again, these things, right? All of a sudden, everyone's got the second screen. Everyone's got a laptop on their lap. They've got a mobile phone that they're using. They've got their tablet. And this is a pretty new phenomenon, right? I mean, it's not that phones are brand new or mobile phones are brand new, but the fact that people now use them all the time while they're watching TV, and that's becoming sort of the norm. Yeah. I mean, the statistics even blow me away, and I'm in this space, right? So Yahoo did a study with Nielsen a couple of months ago where they said 86% of people who have a smartphone are using it while they're watching TV, and if you go to just the under 30 demo, it's like 92%.
Pretty incredible.
So, yeah, so the time is ripe. We all have broadband. We're all now able to participate. And what I like to say from a tech perspective, and this is a little geeky, I guess, but we're all about 100 milliseconds away from one another. I mean, we're having a Skype call right now on the same internet, right? And so if everyone that's watching is within 100 milliseconds from one another, why can't we build experiences that take advantage of that fact? So it's not just me playing with my computer and then winning a badge and sharing that on Facebook and saying, hey, wow, I won a badge because I did something cool with American Idol. Wouldn't it be cooler if what I'm doing is visible by everyone else at the same time, and what they're doing is visible to me, and we have this really participatory experience. We now have the technology to do it. We've got the network to do it, and it's just now coming up with creative, interesting ideas and some cool technology, of course, to make that happen. And that's what Loyalize is.
So, I mean, that's a big vision, obviously. Right? As I said, the only interaction you have often with your television set is turning it on and off, which is as interactive as television used to get, and all of a sudden the pervasiveness, as you say, of these devices, the sit back approach to the tablet, for example, is always is really heralded a new time in our industry, in the television industry. But when you're sitting back, that's a big vision, right? To be able to say, listen, we're going to make this television set interactive. We're going to do these things that nobody's really done before. When did that idea start to germinate? How long have you been working on this?
So, as a company, we've been around for a while. We're actually a spinoff from a company called Trusted Opinion, and we've had a lot of experience with large audiences globally. In fact, our trustedopinion.com is in 52 languages across 100 countries with over 1 million subscribers.
What is Trusted Opinion?
So that's a social network that this company built called Social Recommendation Network, really, that tied together social networks with recommendations like Yelp to do movie and restaurant recommendations.
Okay.
We had a lot of traction in especially in countries that didn't have, obviously in the U.S. you've got companies like Yelp and others that have a lot of traction. But we got traction all over Asia, Eastern Europe, Middle East, a variety of regions because we were multi-language. But anyway, the long story short with that is that once we added sort of the ability for people to start interacting and the ability for them to start, sort of winning virtual currencies and badges and all those sorts of things, we went from something like 4 pages per user to an average of 20 pages per user. So the stickiness got really big on the site. So that was cool, right? But then we, as we started to look at the TV space and at the audience space, we really discovered this opportunity to take some of the technologies, the multi-language platform that we had developed, but apply it into this new space. And I guess I should really say that to start out with, we are a white label product. So we don't go direct to consumer with Loyalize. We are a product that sells through partners like Motorola, who resell our product as part of their social TV platform, but also to large content providers and brands who want to bring a participation experience to their existing audiences. Because when we took a look at the space, we said, you're right. I mean, this is a big space. It's a big vision. And yes, there are great opportunities like some social TV apps out there who go direct to consumer. But if you look at who already has the large audiences, who already has, who's already got the captured audiences, it is the content providers, right? It's the people building the content, it's the TV channels, and the brands who do the promotions during the Super Bowl and do the promotions during other events. So why not provide them a platform that they can brand, they can skin, they can throw their content into, leveraging the technology that we have with some really interesting creative ideas for involving the audience and deploy the platform that way.
So that's how you scale. Because you're not going to go after one consumer at a time, putting it up in the App Store or in App World or the Android Marketplace. You say, we don't want 1 million customers. We want 5 that have 10 million or 30 million or 100 million people that they can engage with themselves.
5 or a few thousand, that's fine. But we want the large customers. Right. I think. Look, I don't think there's a problem with the other approach. I think there's actually. I think this is like you said, it's a big vision. It's a vision that we share with other people in the space, and it's a vision that's gone on for decades, right? How do we get the audience to participate? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think for a number of reasons, in terms of A, our ability to support multiple languages, multiple countries, B, our existing relationship with companies like Motorola, who can really bring this to really large customers, and a few other interesting things about our technology, make it the right choice for us. I tend to think it's going to be a huge choice for us. I think it was the right choice. But yeah, that doesn't preclude some of these really interesting direct-to-consumer plays as well, which I think are cool. Yeah,
everybody's got your own spin or their own spin, but you got to think that locking up the bigger providers into a platform like yourselves, that's a huge competitive advantage when they're rolling it out to every one of their customers as well. And if you can lock yourself in there and lock everybody else out, that's one avenue that might be closed for other companies to compete on.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good space, and I think just given the traction we've gotten, we launched the company 2.5 weeks ago at the AdTech conference, and just even at the AdTech conference, we received just all of a sudden huge pipeline of deals that beyond even what we were expecting with respect to prospects. And so it seems to be resonating not only with us but with a lot of these large content providers who do want a platform that they can offer to their consumers, to their viewers, basically their audience.
So how did you, was it a struggle to come up with that business model to say, listen, we're going to white label this? Because I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that think, I don't want to white label anything. I want my name all over this thing. And, damn be to you who want me to take it off. Was it a struggle that you went through when you were trying to figure out what business model to go after?
This was always a strategy we've had from the beginning. In fact, if you think about our company name, Loyalize, that's not necessarily a great consumer brand.
No.
Loyalize is something that drives loyalty for large content providers. I think it really resonates with content providers' brands, people who want to drive consumer loyalty. But it's not a great consumer name. So really, from the beginning, our company name, our strategy has always been, provide a really compelling platform, something cool that those guys can deliver to their viewers, to their audience. That's however they want to brand it is great. We don't really we're pretty agnostic, but. We've always had that approach because I think, like I said, I think that there are both opportunities. But our platform has always been developed in such a way it's very skinnable, it's very configurable. So someone who's managing a campaign will be able to go in there, set up exactly the kind of experience they want for their particular event, whether that's a concert or a TV show or a reality show or a political debate, and just engage the audience that way.
It just makes so much sense, in order to unclutter. To offer this kind of solution that it just goes towards the people who are in the houses already, on the boxes in the homes. The real thing is that when you make that decision to go this way, did you go out and talk to some of the customers about what they were looking for, or how did you come up with the base product before you actually went out and launched a couple of weeks ago?
All of the above, right? I think when you build a product, you sure want to know what your customer base is looking for. So there were a lot of conversations there. We were very fortunate to be able to engage Motorola as a really early partner in this, and that was great because they have a lot of those existing relationships. So we were able to solicit feedback not only direct to customers we may sell to, but also through their own customer base and understand sort of what they're hearing, what they're seeing. And I think as any startup, if you just listen to what people have to say and build the product, that's not enough, right? Because there needs to be some sort of creative translation in the middle. Yeah. So a lot of the inputs came from us, right? We sort of started with premises that we thought were really killer, really cool stuff, right? We built some prototypes, we showed people, and they went, wow, that's really cool. And so we knew we were on the right track. If you just go to a customer and say, what do you think about, getting people to participate on their phones? They say, yeah, that's great. But then you don't really have a product, right? You just have a great idea. So it was a combination. And there's also a technology component. There are a lot of social media apps out there that have the same sort of approach to engaging the user. You do something on your device, could be a laptop, phone, tablet, whatever, and then you share that fact, right? You say, oh, look, I did this thing, I won this badge, I did whatever, and that's fine. But it's sort of a solitary experience. What we wanted to do was be able to engage people at the same time in real time. So it meant, taking advantage of what I said before, right? This the fact that we're all connected by 100 milliseconds or less, right? So there's two aspects of that. Okay, one is great, so we're all connected, but you can't just use an Apache server to be streaming connections from 100,000 audience members or more. That's not going to scale. So what's the core tech that can take all these inputs in real time and then turn that around, do something with it, and push it back right away? So, when Sally walks into the room and everyone presses, wow, she's sexy, the sexy gauge, jumps up on the screen because immediately we're processing. So there's a tech aspect of it. Then the second thing is the creative aspect. So if it's just a chat client with, a live chat with 300,000 people, it's not really compelling because there's so much content scrolling up on my screen so quickly that, I don't get anything out of it. So how do you create experiences for consumers that are, that are compelling? So you see what the audience is doing, you feel like you still have a say in the matter, But it's still kind of a fun. You know it's real time, and yet it's somehow combining all the inputs from hundreds of thousands of people onto your screen at the same time. And so there's a real creative aspect to this as well.
So, I mean, the technology for this is all kind of a software as a service model?
That's right. So we're a hosted product, a SaaS model.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be because of the fact that there is this massive sort of scale. We have to deal with these huge spikes in audience. If you're launching this during a large TV show, then we have to spin up a large number of servers to handle massive load during that peak time, right? And so this really works best as a SaaS kind of product.
And I mean, what's a great example of this? I mean, obviously, people who are listening or watching this are thinking, it's election time in Canada right about now.
Yeah.
We've watched the debates. It's going to be election time in the U.S. over the next couple of years. Mobile is going to be very influential in this. And they're talking about at the polls on checkout, on election day. But what you're actually looking at is bringing that a little bit closer. So that's a really good example, very very relevant, obviously, to what's going on in both of our countries. But what's another example of something that really has resonated? Shot over the moon, or that has made people excited.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple examples. So, I mean, let's talk about politics, right? So,
yeah.
An app that we just announced at the conference at AdTech was specifically in this space. We know that the U.S. political season, which is very easy to predict, right, every 4 years, when that's going to happen. And so we built an app for that we're actually just starting to sell. And this app is, we looked at political debates on historically what people do. Companies like CNN and other TV programs, they will sequester an audience, usually 50 to 100 people into a room, split up by different political parties, and they have this big dial that they turn. So, when Sarah Palin starts to talk, all the Democrats turn it down, all the Republicans turn it up, and and then they start to show graphs of how people feel during specific points. And we said, well, why can't we do that across a nationwide audience? So we built a mobile and a tablet app that takes those same inputs, lets everyone sort of register as they started up. Register is probably the wrong word. You just hit a button that says I'm a Democrat, an Independent, or Republican. You can tweak that, and then as soon as the debate starts, you start pushing the button of how you feel at that particular moment in time based on what that person is saying. This doesn't have to be just for a debate. I mean, it could be for a Jon Stewart show, right? This could be for just a political speech. You can imagine how you could solicit the audience's opinion across the board. But just using a debate as an example, we get those same 3 lines, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're Independent line, scrolling over time that you can sort of go back and see in conjunction with that particular debate what people are saying. But we're doing it not over 50 or 100 people, but over hundreds of thousands of people across the country.
Because at one point was only limited to the people who attended the debate, right? Or were in sequestered and watching it under pollers or pollsters, right?
Yeah, what's funny is people see this stuff and they say, well, yeah, isn't that the way all these apps work? Actually, no. You show me another app that can take hundreds of thousands of inputs like that and start to graph them in real time and show how people are interacting. It just doesn't exist today, and that's just politics. We thought it was a ripe moment for that, at least in the States. Though clearly, interestingly, we've had a lot of interest from other countries. We hadn't even tracked the election seasons, but it turns out there's an election coming up in Australia, so there's interest there, and a variety of other non-English speaking countries as well.
Yeah, the challenge with Canada is that our election was actually announced, government was dissolved 6 weeks ago. So our election process is 6 weeks long, and at least this time around. So, it's a jammed, mobile does not play heavily in a 6-week election.
Well, no reason why it shouldn't. The parliamentary system. You do have these sort of shorter, unpredictable cycles. But this is cloud hosted, right? Yeah. All we need to do for our app, skin it with a logo, throw it up. Basically spin up some servers, and next time there's a debate, we can be ready.
Well, so it's very disruptive what you're talking about, because there are a lot of pollsters that get paid a lot of money to go and ask 1,000 people and give or take 3 or 4% predict the outcome of elections on any given day. And what you're talking about is quite literally, at any point you're basically polling the audience about what they feel and how they feel about certain political things. Like you could tell them to go to a commercial whenever you see in Canada it's a Conservative or Liberal or a New Democrat Party. And whenever you see a commercial like that, give me your opinion. Give us your assessment of that based on your bias, your political bias. You could come up with a pretty clear idea of what the nation is polling.
Yeah, but I also think polling is just a small piece of sort of the ways you can interact. But I agree. And the second piece of what we do, in fact, our name, Loyalize. it is around you're bringing the audience back. So yeah, it's cool that I can interact with the app. It's cool I can sort of say how I feel about this particular candidate if you're talking about the political thing. But think about sporting events or other kinds of interaction. Sure. You want to start awarding people badges, coins, things like that, sort of gamification and virtual currency, so that they want to come back. So they want to achieve the next loyalty level. They want to win the next badge. And then where I think, back to our white label strategy, think about brands and content providers. They usually have a lot of promotional merchandise, right? They've got T-shirts with a TV show on them or a concert. Yep. They've got, discounts for Pepsi or Pizza Hut, things like that. We have an entire redemption portal or a store that lets people convert their virtual currency that they've won on our platform into promotional goods and services that are stocked by our partners.
Right.
So the engagement part is cool, it's sexy, it's fun. I think that's really where the killer app part of it is. But the thing is, what we want to do is make sure people come back again and again. And so that's where the loyalty piece comes in, when the redemption piece as well.
So this is interesting because you've got the white label component, which is you basically take your technology and sell it to anybody else who then you brand it for them, and then you've got a virtual currency or a reward system in there. Coins is what it is, and you gather coins for every time you participate in something, and then you're driving people back to the Loyalize store to redeem those coins. Is that standard across all applications that you're deploying?
Well, so the coins and the store are branded. So they may be called Loyalize coins, but they may be called Motorola coins, or they may be called Pepsi coins. And the store also may be a Pepsi branded redemption store. Okay. But that's right. But people can choose to just roll out our participation experiences, our real-time participation experiences, or they can choose to go across campaigns where you want to bring people back again and again by then incorporating the loyalty components where you're getting badges, coins, sharing those on Facebook, and eventually redeeming those for promotional rewards. So sort of both pieces. Yeah.
So how effective are those incentives? Like right now we're talking about this quite often because of freemium applications in the app stores and a lot of virtual currency, and a lot of people like Zynga who have made a lot of money in virtual currency and virtual goods. How effective, in your opinion, are these incentive programs for loyalty? To create loyalty among consumers?
I mean, they're hugely effective, and that's why loyalty programs have been around for 30 to 40 years. Yeah. And there's two pieces to that. I've actually looked at. I could send you reams of research across all these industries. Grocery, travel, consumer electronics. There's a variety, but interestingly, it tends to be very effective, which is why there are so many loyalty programs. I mean, just some of the numbers that pop to mind for me, like the Best Buy. You have Best Buy up in Canada. Yep. Yeah. So Best Buy has a rewards program, and I think the customers who are participating in that program spend an average of 2 times as much as a regular customer. Airline mileage programs are also hugely effective. Where they tend not to be effective is when they're not really well promoted. So someone who launches a loyalty program and you get your mailer in the bill once a month, it says, oh, you have some points, and you never see that and you never know it exists. And so there are some programs that are not effective because they're not well marketed. Yeah. But if you look across industries, just in general about loyalty, where loyalty programs are well marketed, they have really a tremendous effect. And that seems to be the case no matter what industry you look at and no matter what decade you look at. What I think is interesting is, and that's in some respects a little, I won't say different, but a little separate from the sort of more recent gamification trends like the Zyngas and all of that, who are actually selling virtual currency that you can use to accelerate your progress in the game, right? But if you look at it across really at a bigger picture, that's all really one and the same. It's whether you're winning currency, whether you can accelerate by buying currency, and then what you use that currency for. And so in our platform, we allow you to use currency in 2 things. One is to do things like purchase virtual gifts and virtual goods, sort of embellish profiles and things like that. But then also, and this is once again, and as I said this already, back to our white label strategy, there is a catalog of promotional goods and services and promotional media, right, like premium content, that a lot of our partners already have. And they're looking for ways to get that front and center in front of the consumer. So this just gives them that perfect opportunity to do that, where they can now say, oh, you know what, we've got that highlight reel of a football game. You know what, if you win 100 coins, we'll let you see that, and things like that. So there's just now an opportunity to basically take that deep catalog of promotional rewards they have and expose it to the consumer in fun ways.
I mean, it just seems like this is an idea whose time has come. We're how you said that you launched a couple of weeks ago, and that the response has been better than you'd expected from your partners or from the companies you're targeting?
Well, so I was hugely optimistic to begin with. This is, the whole real-time participation thing is something I've actually been passionate about for about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And I feel like now, the timing is right because, the tech is there, the cloud is there, so we can scale up in terms of load. The devices are there, so we actually have mobile devices in our hands that are smart enough and powerful enough to do the things. So all the pieces are lined up, yeah. Right? So I was already optimistic. But you never know how, your message is going to be received. And how people are going to understand what you're doing and whether it's on their current roadmap, because maybe they're just focused this year on, who knows, something else, right? I don't know. So you don't really know. What was amazing was we had just a queue of people at our booth, and it was a small booth at the conference, but there were just people coming up to us constantly. There was a line of people. I probably gave the same pitch 50 times, and the 3 or 4 other people from our company doing the same thing over and over again. And then we literally got back from the conference the next morning. There's a voicemail with about 4 or 5 messages that were from the top content providers on our target list, calling us proactively, saying, we need to talk. When's as soon as we can get on the phone with you? And these were people we had on our list to attack for the next week, and they were calling us. So, I've launched probably 5 or 6 products in my career. This is by far just the most proactive interest we got from just our sort of target list of customers. So we're definitely excited about that.
You think that's a scramble? You think that's them realizing very quickly that that this is something that's been missing, or it's identified that it's been missing, and your timing is just impeccable?
I don't know about impeccable. I think that, what's nice now is that there's an increasing spend by all of these companies in social media, yeah. Right? And they're throwing money in a lot of different areas. They're experimenting, which only means that these budgets are going to get larger, and as they start to measure which of these campaigns are most effective. Now, what's interesting about social media campaigns is a lot of them are proving out to be not very effective. No. Why? Because they're either like blasting messages on Twitter or throwing things on Facebook news feeds that aren't really getting looked at. There's a lot of sort of, checkbox, sort of first rev ideas for social media. But for us, social media is really about participation and engagement, and if you can get those people doing those without using too many buzzwords, but if you can actually get them playing around with your content on their devices, having fun, that's what it's really all about. And I think when they see this, it's like it's no longer buzzwords. They go, oh, I can see myself doing that. Like I can actually see myself doing this, right? I can see myself playing trivia with other people at real time based on what's happening on the screen. And
it's so true, and I think that's one of the things that you have to, if you are your own demographic, would you use this product? I mean, it seems like a really stupid, simple question to ask, but a lot of entrepreneurs, or a lot of business guys who are starting businesses don't even stop to ask that question. This is targeted to 13-year-old girls. So if I was a 13-year-old girl, would I use this? I don't know, but let me ask one. But so how important? When you think about this, it's something that I would use. Maybe not every day. I don't check into television shows. I haven't really seen that yet, but it's coming. And but I certainly would think about this. Like, what television shows do I watch? I've unfortunately watched every episode or every season of Survivor for some reason. I can't not. I've invested in that show,
yeah.
Right? But you could definitely see that as perfectly apt, right? I'm a loyal viewer, right? I'm a loyal viewer for that show. But then I can also see this being used very effectively for radio and getting the pulse of radio. It can be any kind of media, couldn't it?
Right, and live events. I mean, I think think about being in a I don't know if you've seen this at baseball games, but they'll have they have campaigns now, or sort of little fun things in between innings, where they'll put up on the screen some poll question. It says SMS your answer.
Yep.
And then 5 minutes later, if you're paying attention, they'll pop up what people said, right? Yeah. And then you're kind of like, well, why should I SMS my answer? I have to pay for an SMS message, or maybe I have unlimited, but so what, right? I mean, this kind of a very non-real-time experience where maybe I'm giving I really feel opinionated, so I want to express my opinion.
It's forced, right? That's forced,
yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
If you see it, and it's so hard to describe, but we have polls in our system. Polls have been around since the internet's been around, but ours are real-time polls. What does that actually mean? It means that as you're voting, as you pick something and other people are picking, the gauges are animating in real time. So you're seeing, option A, option B, option C, they're kind of moving up. So you're getting this instant gratification. So you're saying, oh, I think, the answer is A, or I think that this, A is the I believe that, whatever the question is, right, I want to vote on the first one, but you're seeing the other one. So it's almost like a game in real time as people start to vote. So you can imagine being in a baseball park and having your phone and they put up a poll question or it shows up on your screen. And imagine, so this is something that people get excited about. I mean, if you look at the sports arena, we have something called a director's console, which lets you push simultaneously to every single device the same thing at the same time. Now that thing may be a game, it may be a poll question, maybe a trivia question, or maybe a coupon or an ad. So you can imagine if we're in San Francisco, I'm 3 blocks away from the ballpark here. The Giants get a home run this inning, everyone gets 50% off a Coke, right? As soon as the Giants get a home run, the guy hits it over the fence, right? You can imagine, boom, everyone sees a coupon with a QR code, barcode on their phone. They walk over to the concession stand, get scanned, and they've got their 50% off drink. So that's something that's easy for us to do. It's built into our product, but you don't see that anywhere else, where you're literally within a second pushing to everyone's device something new that's actionable. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
How, when you think about this, this is such a different level than what's been going on in the industry before, or any industry, advertising, professional sports, community building, scoreboards. I read a staggering statistic that, over the off season in baseball, I'm a huge baseball fan, so I mean this is a good conversation. But they, an incredible number of ballparks actually invested. Their biggest investment was in a bigger scoreboard or new technology for the scoreboard, right? And I think those guys don't get it, right? It's not the scoreboard size. It's not about that. It's about the interaction with the customer. It's not one way anymore. It's 2 ways. It's back and forth. So why, invest in a smaller scoreboard that does less and invest in something that actually allows you to have a conversation with the 30,000 or 40,000 people in the stadium, right? Not blasting.
Right. Well, I think they're getting there. I've heard recently that a lot of stadiums are now putting in high-speed Wi-Fi that's reachable to every seat in the stadium. So, we're getting to the infrastructure piece. But like I said, there's a technical component to it, and there's a creative component to it also. Interestingly, we have both of those challenges, right? We have some really smart tech guys that have come up with really cool ways to do this in a very scalable way. But what's also been a challenge is to say, okay, now we can do this. What experiences can we show that make sense, right? I mean, I think there's that aspect too. So I don't think that these guys who drive stadium audiences or are responsible for entertaining them don't see this. I don't think they haven't been fed a solution yet, which gives them what they need. But I think we can do that. So that's where we are.
That's what's amazing about it is that it's just a new level. It's just something that I think that once people understand it, it's the same thing that a lot of people tried. Polling the audience used to be revolutionary in a stadium where you can actually do those kind of things, or in the gold level seating, to hand them a device and let them order some food that they want was revolutionary at the time for service. But this is just a whole different ballgame. Pun intended, I suppose. I have a question about finding first customers. So you've had a lot of experience building out companies over your career. Talk about that experience, about how you go about finding first customers. Obviously, when they don't pick up the phone and call you, right, which is the best kind of finding first customer ever. Right. It just means that you've done your research on the product and it resonates. You found a sweet spot. My father always used to say that an entrepreneur just finds a hole and fills it. Right. That's literally what it is that we're trying to do. But that first customer experience, have you closed one yet with what you guys are doing now with Loyalize?
We actually have some really interesting things happening. We're not ready to announce yet, but we have some pretty exciting things happening. I can go back to a variety of other companies, and because I think there are some similarities, whether you're doing an enterprise software deal, whether you're doing a new piece of hardware, whatever it is. You need to find a product champion within an organization, right? There are companies who are, but we're talking really selling a product, right? Because if you're going to consumers, like we did at Trusted Opinion, that's a whole other set of, how do you get to your 1 million subscribers, right?
Right.
You can't obviously go one-to-one and sort of, convince each of them to sign up, right? And you can sort of, put on ads on Google and you can pay your way up there, but that also doesn't scale from a business perspective. So the virality question is a fascinating one. If you're asking, in our current model and in models I've been in before, which is, B2B, how do you find that first customer? there's at least three categories of customers. There are the super early adopters, the visionary customers. They're the ones who are somewhat, able to take risk, but they don't want to be the first. And then there's the ones who are going to wait till everything's already been out there, and then they're just going to just pick and choose from existing proven solutions. And you just have to find those people. You have to just cast a wide net. You have to go to conferences. You have to speak to people. You have to be very aggressive and friendly and outgoing and get in the right circles. But eventually, you have to find, that person or people within those companies who really are willing to, who just totally share your vision. I started an enterprise software company in '99, and we sold. We were selling to Fortune 500s in the downswing, 2001, right, as the market was going down. But we would have this very compelling solution, and we would go and we would find people at companies like Texas Instruments and Charles Schwab, not known to generally be cutting edge, but you'd find someone within those companies who would say, gosh, this is exactly what I've been saying for the last 5 years. You're reading my mind, and they would make it happen. They would push whatever they needed to do to get the deal done. And once you have those kind of key customers using your product, the rest gets a lot easier because you've got some great references at that point.
Yeah, and I guess that when you think about conventional, selling, that first customer is always such a hurdle for a lot of guys and a lot of companies that are trying to build, especially in the mobile space, because there has been a lot of innovation over the last couple of years in mobile, but over the last couple of years, it's been really kind of micro movements. It hasn't really been, the first company like Foursquare to do check-ins really pushed the industry. It kind of made everybody wake up, like the iPhone did when it came to technology, and then everybody else has been kind of incremental. Right? The same thing with devices. It hasn't really been mind-blowing. And then the iPad came out, and it's like, oh, boom, another explosion. And then everybody's been incrementally modifying the technology. So, there's a lot of choice out there, and you really have to hone in on your market. And I think that's what you guys did very effectively, which was to pick the white label route, those guys with customers, find and fill that niche, which is allowing people to offer their own opinion. And everybody's got one, which is the best part of what you guys are doing, right?
Right.
You're satisfying that need so succinctly. What about
thanks?
What about funding? Are you guys? You said you're a spin-out company, but are you? Is the parent funding it? Have you brought in investors? Are you looking for investors? I mean, how does this work for you guys?
So we're not currently looking. We've raised a little over $6 million in financing from a private equity group in Europe. Same people who had funded the parent company. They're very excited about it, and have a strong commitment to the company. So we're not actively looking. We've had some interest from outside investors, and we'll always keep it open. I think that depending on sort of how much investment we need to make now, and as opposed to in the future, and how fast revenue comes in the door, we may always look at outside investors to sort of help us accelerate. But at the same time, we've got a 22-person team. We've got great partner in Motorola that's driving a lot of business, and so it's just at this point it's just about execution, and that's sort of what we're focused on right now.
So feet on the street, running as hard as you can, obviously.
Exactly.
And so when you a little bit of a forward thinking question, when you look ahead, I mean, where does your business go from here? So there's a natural transition, obviously, small screen, big screen, radio, live events. And then where do you see this kind of activity accelerating? Do you see it walking down the street, sitting in a Starbucks saying, watching the poll of how people feel it's about the Starbucks or about their latte or about their product? I mean, how does this industry shape?
So, I mean, industry is a broad, there's, a broad description of where we are. If we focus specifically on real-time social experiences or real-time audience participation, I think it's a new category of things you can do with those devices. That doesn't mean everything becomes real time. It doesn't mean that I'm inundated with having to take polls and trivia, just to go buy a coffee or to cross the street, right?
I felt very good about that step. That step was so good.
That's amazing, right? Going, the slope on this hill is there, let me tell the city about the slope on this hill.
The average person in Ottawa loves their first step, but hates their second, right? Or something.
Right, and how did I feel about just getting that parking ticket? Let me
exactly.
Call, right? So I mean, no, I don't think we're not replacing anything, and but I do think that as it's funny, now that people see what we've done, they all have their own slant on it. They can say, oh, I can imagine doing this. Well, sports and politics are obvious. Reality TV is another one, right? Concerts, live sporting events, those are big ones. But then you just take it from there, right? I mean, you go to It's funny, I was just at this ad tech conference, but you go to any conference these days, you go to the keynote, and you're sitting in this large audience. And it used to be in the 90s that most people would watch the audience, the presenter speak. Now, I mean, come on, 80% of people are got their laptops, their iPads. I mean, almost everyone is sort of doing something else while they're listening. Yeah. And I think that for those kinds of experiences, there's no reason why you can't have a more live experience two-way, where you're now voting, you're now providing input, playing some kind of interactive game with the audience, fun, informative, whatever. So I think that just kind of expands out from there, and it just comes down to how fast we can hit all those different verticals.
Hey, do you think that at some point, what you guys are doing? I mean, obviously, it's going to influence a buy or no buy decision at some point. Like, I think very effectively, like when I'm looking at a movie, on the shelf or Netflix or something like that, where I decide, listen, do I buy it or not? Well, I mean, integrating that real time or the summary of real time feedback from the people who have watched that movie, it's much better than a review and a star system. It's quite literally, you gauge emotion about the movie, and I can make a buy decision on something like that. Like, that's pretty influential when you start to think long term how all that accumulated data will portray for that one product that I'm looking at. Does that weigh heavily on you, or is that where you're heading? Is that or is that just a distant future?
Well, no. I mean, audience analytics is really what we're selling here. Yeah. At the end of the day, the people that we sell to, right, the businesses, I mean, they want to provide a compelling experience, but why do they want to provide that experience? What's the business value? There's two reasons, right? One is to sell advertising. Yep. Right? I mean, that's what content providers tip. That's how they make their money, right? So it's another channel for advertising. And B, it's to understand what the audience is thinking, feeling, participating, doing, how they're coming, how often they're coming back, all of that. So actually, one of the first components we started building when we built this platform was our analytics platform. Yeah. And that gives you, the ability, for example, over the political debate, to see all the curves of how every person felt, or during the course of a drama or another TV show. Yeah. We've got a game called our Moodometer, where with the Moodometer, you're expressing your mood as the show's going on, and we can graph those moods over time. I can show you how many people are coming back, what they're doing, what they're saying. There's so many different ways to slice and dice the data, because that's really, as a white label product, that's really what you're selling.
100%.
Yeah, so that's actually, interestingly, the first thing we started building was the analytics piece of this. Now, when it comes to actual purchase decision, that's actually a whole other aspect. Excuse me one second. Sorry, no. We have a shared office here, so someone just came by and held up a ring to ask if it was my ring.
Are you getting proposed to on video? Is it?
It may have been, though. It was kind of, if you saw who it was, it may not have been an interest.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to what I was saying, though. I think there's a lot of opportunities outside of just purchase decisions, because that's actually a whole other set of recommendation-based purchase decisions, which I could talk about a lot because we came from that space with trusted opinion. But anyway, yeah.
I think about, I just look at implications of something like this, where you're what used to be a good poll is 100 people, or a good sense of whether or not there's a connection to the consumers 100 people. I mean, you used to have 10 people in a room watching a TV show, and attached with electrodes to see whether they're emotionally attached or disengaged. But now I think that you're upping that so that maybe 10,000 people is the new bar for any given point in time for building a community and creating that conversation. But I also think about the implications of creating community in real time around interactive activities. Like, if I'm spending $250,000 or $2.5 million for a 30-second Super Bowl spot, and I'm getting a negative reaction on the Super Bowl itself, it's a blowout in the first quarter. Will this have an impact on will they give me a refund based on the fact that people are not happy with what's going on the television show? Like, that kind of analytics and influence might have a big impact on bottom line. If they're really happy with the show, could they not increase my advertising spend the next time? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's actually the flip side to visibility and analytics is sometimes people don't want to know that data. I mean, the way advertising has been done on television and paid for is really hasn't changed in 30, 40 years. And I've sensed and heard people talk about some reticence, not only interestingly on the part of the content providers who may not want to change their pricing dynamic, but even the brands who are used to paying and budgeting for things a certain way. And now it gets, potentially a lot more complicated, right?
It does.
Do we have real-time auctions for advertising? I mean, why not? We could, right? We could now potentially, measure how many people are watching and how many people made it halfway through the show and then turned it off. No one's really going down that path for, I think, a lot of reasons. But yeah, the technology's there. The question is whether the business wants to go that direction.
And that's it. Where humans get involved, it becomes a little complicated because
Right.
you've
And
added like a pitch and yaw into this X and Y, right?
Right.
Which is
Right.
which is a completely different level. And I love that, and that's why I'm so interested in what Loyalize is doing because it seems like a very simple idea that is a no-brainer. That gap between me and my TV or me and whatever it is, me and the event, all of a sudden is collecting enough information to have such a massive impact on many multiple industries that are being fed into whatever it is that I'm watching, whether it's a
Right.
live sporting event or television, or a live television event, or a concert. I just think that that's incredible. And I know that there are very few companies that are sitting this at this spot with what you guys are doing. So yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Now, the question is, so how do people find out about you guys? Loyalize.com?
That's right, loyalize.com.
And when you start to deploy, obviously people will know the technology is yours because of this conversation. But hopefully over the next little while, some good news coming out about customer closures.
Definitely.
Obviously.
We've got a lot of, we got good press on the site already. I think if you look on our website now, Forbes just picked us as one of the 4 hot companies to watch in the space. So we're getting a lot of press. We are doing a lot of sort of, person-to-person outreach. So we're doing a lot of contacting of our core pipeline. So there's a lot of ways we're getting the word out. Motorola really helped us out when they actually pre-announced us the week before we launched. They announced that they were building their social TV solution and their whole suite of solutions actually on the Loyalize platform. So they did a release, I can't remember what it was now, but about a week before we launched, that must have been 3.5 weeks ago, where they were really the first people to talk about us publicly. So the word's getting out, definitely. But Loyalize.com, we're on Twitter at Loyalize, on Facebook as well. So, we got a lot of channels to get the word out.
And is the ultimate goal to be like, everybody talks about this, the Intel inside, like Loyalize inside, so there's a trusted brand in there, or does that really not matter to you?
Right now we're not trying to create a consumer brand out of Loyalize, So, Intel went through that decision in the mid-'90s when they said we want to be a consumer brand.
Yeah.
We may decide to launch a consumer-facing product in the future. It probably would not be branded as a Loyalize to the direct-to-consumer product.
Right.
But I think right now we want that name to be known to our potential customer base, to the content providers, the brands, those folks. We want them to recognize Loyalize as what's powering these really interesting real-time experiences.
So, Todd, great lessons here, and I'm just going to try to summarize the big one that I got, which was. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who are embedded or head down trying to figure out their space, and I ask them about their customer base, and it's so broad all the time. And you said something that really stuck with me at the beginning of this session, which was, even our name, the Loyalize name, is not a consumer brand name. It's really targeted towards our customer base, which are the guys who actually own the consumers or own their customers. Mm-hmm. So that's the lesson that it's a huge lesson when it comes to, especially in the mobile space, and all of these pie-in-the-sky discussions that we've had this last 20 minutes alone around the impact it can have. Those are future conversations, but you're not going to be around to have those conversations unless you pick your market, pick your customer, and then satisfy their need. That's the big lesson that I learned right now from you during this session. And hopefully you guys who are listening or watching this, take that with the business that you're in, not Todd's, but your own, because that's something that you can apply. So for that, that is wonderful. Not to mention all of the other nuggets that you've put out here. But I certainly think that's the big theme that I've seen from our conversation. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. No, you're very welcome.
So as I said, we've been speaking with Todd Greene, who's the co-founder and CEO of Loyalize. Go to loyalize.com or at Loyalize on Twitter. Todd, I really appreciate you being here, offering your insight, your experience, and I'm going to have you back on when you have your first customer close, and we'll see how it is actually to close a customer in the business and get some feedback from you there. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate the time, Rob.
And for you guys who are still watching this, as always, God love you. Thank you for sitting through this. I know you found some value in this conversation with Todd. And please give me some feedback. Untether@gmail.com. I don't want to plea for it, but I'd really appreciate to hear back what you thought about this. And if you want to reach out, you know how to reach Todd through the Loyalize website. But again, thank you for watching or listening. And this has been another episode of Untether.tv. See you later, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.